I would guess, I had to describe myself, I would say I was enthusiastic, sporty, and verbose. Okay, I'll now qualify that a bit. I asked my 14-year-old son to tell me how I look to others. And that's how he described me. And it says something about our family, the fact that I had a 14-year-old that even knew the word verbose, just totally crazy. But that's how he described me. And quite honestly, I think as the years go by, you recognize one sign of maturity is you develop perspective. And you also develop brutal honesty. And you begin to see people the way they really are. And I begin to see all my weaknesses way more than any strengths I might have. Something on a slightly more personal note, my father, he contracted TB very early on in his medical career, and he was in a hospital for 3 years as a result of that. And he always wanted to be a surgeon, but he wasn't strong enough to be a surgeon. And I knew the real pride he had when I became a surgeon. It was just ridiculous, actually. It's almost as though I was fulfilling a lot of the dreams he had, but was never able to fulfill because of having TB. So there was that element to it as well. Okay. There is no typical day. That does not exist. And actually, if you ask most doctors, we would all say the same thing. And that's part of the most enjoyable, satisfying, fulfilling aspect of being a doctor. Each day will be different. I am a trauma and orthopaedic consultant. So that means in the NHS, I will do an acute trauma take, which means you can take people with head injuries, neck injuries, injuries to the back, the arms, everything and anything. And you are responsible for their care for the first 12 hours at least, until you can undertake definitive management yourself or ensure they're looked after by other people who have better expertise than yourself to care for what are often extremely complex injuries. So a typical day on call, there's nothing typical about that. However, something that is a bit more typical is an elective day. That means I'm doing operations that I've planned a few weeks or a few months in advance. Each one usually is quite different because I'm both a hip and knee surgeon. So I have the advantage that I could have a list of 5 cases and each one would be a different challenge. And even now, even though I've been doing it for far too many years to remember, I still love that little bit of nervousness before each case when I just wonder, what sort of particular little sort of pointers are going to be troubling me during this surgery. And at the end of the operation, it's looking back at it and I think what went well and actually what didn't quite go so well, what I could have done better next time. So even now I'm still trying to improve. So that's a typical elective day. And the final typical day is in clinic. Now really, being a doctor is probably the most privileged position in society. I have people from all walks of life, and as soon as they're sitting in your consulting room, they just open up to you. I sometimes think almost more than they would do to their husband or wife, quite honestly, because they trust you. And to have that element of trust, wow, nothing can equal it. And if I've had a bad week and it's the end of the week and we open a bottle of Prosecco, whatever, on the Friday night, and we just sit back and we say some things have been really horrible this week, but nonetheless, actually it's still been pretty good. I think it's probably my colleagues. That's the funny thing. All the people you work with, we're all fairly highly motivated. We love our jobs, and that enthusiasm is something that carries between all of us. And when you've got a difficult case or you're having difficult times, they're always there to help you. And even though I would regard them as being my friends, I don't really see them in my free time because I've lots of other stuff I do with family and such like. But when I'm at work, it's as though I've joined a huge, big family who's supportive at all times. Okay. Again, it'll be my 14-year-old and my wife, in fact, who've had some certain words to say about this. I guess it's covered by the word midlife crisis. So that's what I do. I do crazy things. Last year, I was competing at the World Championships in downhill ski racing in Innsbruck. And if you're over the age of 30, you qualify as a master's skier. So I'm one of those. I'm afraid to say I'm way over 30. But it's not just the ski racing I do on the snow. Every Saturday you'll find me at Chatham Ski Slope, racing down the plastic there, competing against 9, 10 and 11-year-olds. And it's disgraceful, in fact, because I know the parents sometimes think, gosh, you know, you've got this grown adult behaving like a child, and I hate being beaten. So even if it's a 9-year-old girl who's only been ski racing for a couple of years, I'm still up for it, and I'm still going to give her a good race.